Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. This is Anika I'm a teacher of Maes Meravigli, and I
Welcome,
have with me.
everyone. And I'm Emily, and I'm also with you from Meravigli, and I am originally from the UK.
And I'm originally from Bangladesh, and I've been living in Italy for 5 years. Right.
Wow, much longer than me. I'm still quite new to Italy, about
How
1
long
year
have you
now.
been living? How long have you been living here again, Emily?
About one year.
All
So
right.
if you would like to tell us your name and where you are from, then that would be great as well.
Right. Yes, please feel free to share anything or ask any questions. So today we are going to talk about false friends. Right.
Yes, which is not always friends that you are then that don't treat you very well. They're also about language and things that you think you know from Italian and other languages, but are actually quite different in English.
That's right. That's right. And I have had a lot of problems for false friends when I speak Italian myself. Some words in English sound exactly the same as Italian, but the meaning is completely different. Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
So today we are going to talk about identifying these false friends. Then we are going to talk about using false friends correctly and some common errors. Right.
Yes, so we will move from false friends in terms of vocabulary onto more common grammar mistakes that you may have seen before.
Right. So moving on. What did you say? So let's discuss some questions here. Which false friends are most difficult for you to remember? Right. I definitely have some false friends, Italian-based false friends in mind that are very common. Hi, Nicole. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, welcome. And
Right.
if you have any false friends in English, please let us know what those are.
Right. A very common false friend that I keep hearing is polite. Right. So this is when you are gentle and when you say thank you a lot, or you say sorry when you have to, and it's
Yes.
not to be confused with clean.
And also not to be confused with educated, because polite is not so much about education, it's just about showing respect for someone else. Because educated is the level of schooling that you have had in your life. So polite is not so much about that. It's
Definitely.
quite a British thing in that respect, about respect.
That's right. Have you ever made a mistake with false friends when speaking English? Right. Please feel free to share any mistakes that you have made and any experience you've had with false friends. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have made many mistakes in Italian when it comes to using false friends. What about you, Emily? Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Right.
And I know it's very common, especially when words often end the same, to find a rule that you want to continue with every word, and then sometimes the meaning doesn't translate that way.
Definitely. And have you ever heard foreigners speaking your native language make a mistake with false friends? So please feel free to share about an experience you had when you heard a foreigner speaking, making some mistakes on false friends?
Yeah, I would like to emphasize there making mistakes, because that is a common error that we see quite a lot. Sometimes people say do a mistake, and it is make. I know the difference between do and make can be quite confusing, but hopefully the more you practice, the more you become familiar with the differences between those words.
Yes, definitely. So make a mistake is something to remember. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about marketing blunders. All right. So what are
Great.
blunders?
So blunders are similar to mistakes. It's a slightly more literary term, a more creative term than mistake.
Yes. A big mistake, right? So let's talk about some big mistakes that people make in marketing. So here is an advertisement on new bedding. So we have some new comments coming in from Nicole. Yes, I have made mistakes, especially with tenses. Tenses can be quite difficult sometimes.
Yes, definitely. And especially when they are tenses that may not exist in your language, and you have to choose the correct tense for a situation.
That's definitely true. I often find students making mistakes on past simple and present perfect, which is quite the opposite in Italian, I find.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
In terms
I
of
agree.
grammar.
Okay. So let's
Great.
read.
Okay. Yeah, so I will read this advert if you like. So we have
Sure.
new bedding. So bedding, as you can see from the picture, is just anything that you have on your bed, any sheets, any blankets, anything covering the bed. Okay, so I will read the advert. Try to notice any of the errors, any of the false friends in this advert there. So, is your bedroom annoying? It's time for new bedding. Come down to our store today to try our ultra morbid new fabric. It is brave for sensible skin.
Those are quite funny mistakes.
Yes, absolutely. I have some of my favorite false friends in this one.
Me too, definitely. So if anyone can recognize the mistakes, please write it down in the comment section below. Let's see who can spot it first. Right, so I can see a very common one in the very first sentence, a very first question. Is your bed? Annoying is not the correct word. Annoying means when you find something quite bothering you.
Yeah, if something is frustrating, maybe.
Frustrating, yes, that was the. So annoying. A bedroom cannot be annoying for sure. It can be a
No.
person. Right.
Yeah, often, if any of you have any younger brothers or sisters, you probably find them annoying.
Oh yes, you're reminding me of my sister Emily.
Oh, hopefully I am not the annoying sister, but we'll see. Yes, so instead of annoying, it should be boring here. So is your bedroom boring? Maybe there is no color on your walls, and you want to change that.
That's true. So boring is the word we are looking for, which is interesting. Not interesting, I'm sorry.
The opposite of interesting.
The opposite of it, yes.
Yeah.
So
Great.
it's time for new bedding. Come down to our store today to try our ultra morbid new fabric.
So this is possibly my favorite false friend of all time. So morbid is the word we are looking for there. And morbid in English, you may not have seen. So morbid means you are obsessed with death. You think about death and dying all the time. And Paula is completely right. We have morbid as soft there.
That's right.
So
Very good,
soft
Paula.
is the word we are looking for.
Yes. Morbid is relating to death, as Emily said.
So maybe you are a morbid person, but fabric cannot be morbid. I hope.
Right.
It doesn't have feelings.
That's right. That could sound a little bit funny when you say bedding it's morbid.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. The last sentence has two of these false friends.
Yeah, a very special sentence in that way.
Right. They're quite common. It is brave for sensitive skin. So brave
you corrected one there. You corrected one. Yeah. Anyway.
So Paula says brave should be good. So well done, Paula and Nicole. So brave has a different meaning. What could be another word for brave?
So another word for brave in how we use it in English could be courageous.
Courageous is the word, yes.
Yeah. So maybe if there is if there is a fire in your house, for example, and you need to be you need to escape your house, you need to be courageous.
That's right.
Yes, as Nicole said, valorous. You can also say that is slightly more old-fashioned, more literary, but you can say that, yeah.
Right.
But courageous is more common.
Right. And we have the false friend sensible. Sensible skin is not correct.
No.
Also a very common mistake.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So sensible is more about being rational. So if you look before you cross a road, that's very sensible. And yes, as Jessica and Nicole say, sensitive is the correct word in this case.
That's right, so sensitive. Okay, so a sensitive skin could be something, skin that is easily, there are problems with the skin.
Right. Yeah. Or if you are a sensitive person emotionally, maybe you cry easily, you feel things deeply.
Right. Sensitive people cry a lot. Okay. So we have the answers here, soft, good, and sensitive.
Yes, and then it becomes quite a good advert, actually, when you correct everything there.
Yes. So it, right. So if you correct everything there, it looks, it makes sense.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
I think we have another advert now.
Right. On house for rent. Right. So I could read this one.
Yeah, sure.
It's okay. So lovely factory house for rent. There is a small kitchen, living camera, and dining camera on the first floor, and the second floor has 2 bedrooms. The location is quiet with hardly any rumor. It is close to the public bookstore and perfect for a young family. So lots of false friends here.
Yes, just like the last slide, there are 4 false friends. So please, if you notice any, then let us know in the comments.
That's right. So the first false friend we can see here is factory. So factory is definitely not what they mean here. It's usually a very big building, where
Mhm.
things are produced. For example, if it's a textile factory or something is produced there, right?
Absolutely. It's
Instead,
much more industrial.
right. Paula says factory should be farm. So very good there. It's a farmhouse,
Yeah,
which
brilliant.
right, which is definitely a lovely house with I would imagine with a big green field with a lot of animals around. A farmhouse, right?
Yes, lots of land and a farmhouse, I hope.
Right, right.
Okay.
So
And then the second false friend that we have here is camera. And the camera is more about something that you use to take pictures with. Now, the word we are looking for instead is room, as Jinli said there.
yeah,
Okay.
well done. So room. The word camera actually exists in English. It refers to the machine that you use to take photos. That's a
Yeah.
camera. Very
Or more
common.
commonly now, the app you have on your phone to take photos.
Right. We have camera again here. So instead, we have room, dining room. Another one of these really common false friends is rumor. Right?
Yeah.
The location is quiet with hardly any rumor, doesn't really make sense. So if anybody knows the correct version, Paula says noise. Well done.
Yes, and rumor, the word does exist in English, but it's more about gossip. Maybe if you hear someone talking about you or talking about something, you hear a rumor.
That's right. Rumor equals gossip. Okay. Our final false friend in this advertisement is bookshelf. Right. So public bookshelf is not correct if you know the answer. So Paula says
Yeah.
library. That's right.
Yeah, Nicole also says library, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
confusingly, English is the opposite of every other European language in that respect.
right. So bookshop also exists in English, but which refers to a place where you buy books, as opposed to library, meaning where you read books or you borrow those books from there. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Before we move on, then
Yeah.
these are only some false friends that exist. Please, if you have any other false friends, let us know. I know Anika and I probably both have some more to talk about, but maybe we could do this activity before we talk about any others to give you time to tell us any more that you know.
Yes, please do not hesitate. Right. There's so many others that I keep hearing about.
Yeah.
We have seen factory before. Sometimes factory can be used as a false friend as well.
So Jessica has one here. Jessica says parents. Absolutely. So parents in English is talking about just your mother and your father. So it's very specific. But the word that is similar to the Italian is the word relatives, which can be any family member
That's
at
right.
all.
Yes, could be your uncle, could be your cousins.
Yeah, it's much more general, as I will say there. Yes. Another one that I hear a lot is the word argument.
Oh, yeah, that's a very common one. Good thinking, Emily.
Yeah. So an argument is much more specific in English than in Italian. So it's talking about when you have a discussion with someone that doesn't go very well, a disagreement with someone, that is an argument. But the word in Italian is more similar to topic. We would say topic or theme sometimes. And this is an interesting one because I don't know if you know this, Anika, but in history, then we did use the word argument to mean a topic. If you look at very old writing,
Right.
but
So
this is not
in an
so common.
old-fashioned English, it could be correct.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But nowadays,
yeah, but we don't live in Shakespeare's time now, so so it changes quite a lot.
it's true. We have more coming in. Company. Right. That's a really common one. I hear a lot of students say mix up company with society. Right. So company is definitely a place where a big organization where you go to work in, like I work for this company, whereas society can refer to a group of people, a modern society, for example. So the meanings are quite different.
Yeah, society is definitely more abstract than a company.
Yes.
That's great. Okay.
We have a magazine. Right, that's a good one. So magazine in English refers to usually a small book, kind of like it's not really a newspaper, but it contains a lot of advertisements.
Yeah, it's normally of a specific interest. If you're interested in cars or you're interested in fashion, maybe you have a magazine on a subject like that.
That's true. And the word that it's confused with, it's mixed up with usually would be warehouses, right? So warehouse is the place where you store things, and not where it's completely different from magazine. It's not the thing you buy in a bookstore, right?
Yeah, a really good one.
Yeah. So we have some more examples of false friends here that we're going to talk about. So we talked about good before, which is a false friend for
brave.
That's right. So we have also talked about soft, right? So we have morbid is the false friend for that. We have also mentioned noise.
Yeah, noise and rumor.
We have farm, which refers to factory. Okay. We have bookshop. If anyone remembers what bookshop is usually confused with, feel free to write it in the comment section below. Right, so bookstore is where you buy books.
And a library is where you borrow books.
That's right. We have mentioned sensitive, when a person is sensitive to or very emotional, who cries a lot, sensitive.
Yeah. And this false friend is sensible, which is more about being rational or reasonable.
That's right. We have talked about room. It's a part of a building, part of an apartment with 4 walls.
And a camera is the machine you use to take photos.
Right. We talked about boring, which is not interesting. Something not interesting is boring.
Yeah, and annoying is more about something that is frustrating.
That's right. Okay. If you have any questions, please write it down on the comment section.
Yeah, I see we have another false friend that has come in. We have a duo. Which in English, duo is talking about a pair of people who are never separated. Yeah, so maybe if you and your best friend can be a duo if you spend all your time together, or two people who perform music together, we call a duo also.
In music, it's a very common word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
so let's try to write to make some sentences with the false friends that we have talked about before. So sensitive versus sensible. Okay, so one thing that could be difficult with these words are the prepositions after it. For example, you can be sensitive to something. So people can be sensitive to hurtful words. Right?
Yeah. And with sensible, it's probably more common to either use no preposition to just describe a person in that way, or to say you are sensible about something. If there is a situation when you need to be sensible, you say you are sensible about wearing sun cream in the summer. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
right.
a rational thing to do.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And as Paula said, you can also say sensitive about, probably not in this example. So in this example, we would say, I will just show it on the screen. So instead of she is sensitive about the weather, we'd probably say she is sensitive to the weather because she feels every change in the weather very easily. Sensitive about is more a topic that you find difficult. Yeah, so you are, if you are very, very, let's say, very thin, yeah, you can say she is sensitive about her weight, or she is sensitive about that issue. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So next we have here clean. Clean is the opposite of dirty. So if you can think of a sentence, so you can share it with us. A sentence I can think of is that I like to keep my room clean. All right, I like to keep my room clean. Okay.
Yeah. And I like to spend time with polite people because they are people who show respect.
That's right. Here's a sentence from Paolo. The house is clean. Yeah, short and simple. Correct.
Absolutely. A good one.
Okay. So polite is often polite is the false friend of educated. So educated. The word exists in English and it refers to a person who has studied a lot, someone who has been to school, they are educated, right?
Yes, probably they read a lot as well.
They read a lot, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And polite, as we said, is not so much about education. It's more about showing people respect. You say thank you, you say please, and you can be polite and educated, but you can be polite without being educated.
Yes, that's definitely true. Nicole here says the staff was very polite, available. Polite and available, probably and is missing.
Yeah, or you could even say the available staff was very polite, saying there are lots of staff, but we want to emphasize the staff that are there in this moment. But that's great. Staff being polite, I think, is very important in lots of companies.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole.
we have here end, which is the false friend of fine. It's a very common one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
end is when you finish something, you reach the end of it. So end can be a verb or a noun. So we can say we are going to end the lesson, end the webinar at 2:50, or we are at 2:50. 2:50 is the end of the webinar.
That's right. Yeah. Whereas fine is always an adjective. But as many of you know, it's the most common answer if you say, "How are you?" "I'm fine." I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it can be very positive, it can be neutral depending on the situation.
All right. So my mom is fine now. So thank you for sharing, Paula. It's a great sentence. My mom is fine now.
Yeah,
I'm happy to know
great
that.
example. Yes, great.
Okay.
So now we are moving on from the false friends onto more common errors that are more general, more about the grammar. So again, we will read this through. Don't worry too much about tenses. We're not so interested in tenses today. It's more the verbs, or which verbs we use with which nouns, or which prepositions we use.
Right. So we have a letter here.
Okay, so I will read this if you like, Anika.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I am Megan. So, dear Susan, I am having a lovely vacation in England. I made loads of photos. I can't wait to show you them when I get to home. I am trying to improve my English, but it is hard. I did many mistakes today. I try to read all the informations in the brochures in the museums. Sometimes I feel like I don't know nothing. People think I am fun when I speak English. It makes me laugh to see their surprised faces when my English is wrong. Do you have any advice? See you soon, Megan. So
Okay,
please
so
let us know if you notice any mistakes.
yeah, there are quite a few. If you correct those false friends, it turns into a very nice letter.
It does.
So the first error, somewhere at the beginning.
Before we get to the first error, I just want to mention something that is not an error, but is just a US UK difference. In the first sentence, we have vacation there. So vacation is correct, but it is the American word. Yeah. So you can say a lovely vacation or a lovely holiday.
Yeah, that's right. Haven't
They
thought
are
of
both
that.
correct.
That's right. Okay, so there are some comments coming in from Jessica. No, anything, well done, and not nothing. So in
That's
English, you
right.
cannot use double negative. So don't is a negative. You cannot use nothing in the same sentence, as two negatives don't go together. Don't know anything.
Absolutely. Well noticed, Jessica. And
Yes.
Jessica has also said, get home. And you're right. In the second line, we have, when I get to home. We don't need a preposition there. We just say get home, because home is an idea and not a building. So you go to a house, or you just go home.
That's right.
And Nicole, just a similar comment has come in. I come back home. Come back home is also correct in this case, but get home is the verb is not incorrect there. You can say get, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's right. So if we were to move on with the first false friend here, I made a lot of photos is not correct. So Paula has noticed that and mentioned took and not made. So we take photos.
Mm-hmm.
A very common
Absolutely.
one.
Yes. And I believe the second one is home that we discussed. Before them, I do want to mention show you them. That is not incorrect. It's very, very informal. You can also say show them to you if you want to be more formal. So this is one where, you know, there is more than one possibility, and maybe you use different examples in different situations there.
I think I would prefer to say show them to you in writing.
Mhm.
I think I definitely would.
Yes, I think I would more commonly say that in writing. Then yes, show them to you. But if you just speak, perhaps show you them. It depends on your personality, on the situation.
That's right. Okay, so we have the next mistake, did many mistakes. So Emily has mentioned that before.
Yes, we know do and make are very similar. In general, make is slightly more creative. So, you know, you make mistakes, you make decisions also, and do is more just about activities. It's a very general word for doing an activity.
Right. So make and do, I think it's a matter of memorizing, like when to use which, do or make.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Although sometimes as a general rule, I would say do is used more for actions, like you do the laundry or you do the
Yeah,
dishes, while make usually
definitely.
refers to creating something or producing something, like make a cake.
Yeah, and as I said before, if you make a decision or you make a choice, also.
Yeah. So Paula has also noticed informations is not correct. It's
Yes,
information or piece of information. That's a really common one.
it is absolutely. This is one that I know I correct several times a week. So
Right.
well done for noticing that one. That's really great.
Yeah. So we have already talked about know anything and not nothing.
You can also say I know nothing. You can remove the first negative if you prefer. So when there is a double negative, think about which one you prefer to remove there.
Yes. So the next word we have here is, so let me write down what Emily has mentioned. You can say either I
Yeah.
know nothing
So or I know nothing or I don't know anything.
right.
Brilliant. As any of you who are Game of Thrones fans will know, there is a character who often says, "You know nothing," Jon Snow, which
Oh
is
yeah.
which is probably more interesting than saying you don't know anything all the time. Yeah.
Right.
So
I need to
again,
get
it's
into
always
that
about the
show.
situation.
Right.
It's always about the situation. We have fun and funny there. Everyone knows all the false friends already. This is brilliant.
This really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
fun
people,
should be funny. So fun
that's
is
right.
something that you enjoy doing. For me, going to traveling to a new city is fun. Exploring a new city is enjoyable.
Yeah. Whereas
Whereas,
funny is more about what is comic. If someone tells a joke, if someone makes you laugh, it's funny, hopefully.
yes, let me write that down for you. Funny is something or someone that makes you laugh. Like a comedy movie can be funny.
Exactly, yeah. While we talk about fun and funny, I just want to mention the comparatives for these words because fun is a strange, irregular comparative. We don't normally say funner like you would expect. Normally, we say more fun. The reason for that is because fun is originally a noun, and we use more with nouns. Funny is a regular one. So we do say funnier. We have the Y in as the I, but we have more fun.
That's a very good point you have mentioned there, Emily. It's a very common mistake I hear, especially because it breaks the rules, isn't it? Usually, one-syllable adjectives end with have "er" form in the comparative form. This is quite an exception.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, the reason, if you are interested, is because fun is a noun. You know, sometimes English does make sense. Sometimes.
Unfortunately, like all languages.
Occasionally. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
So we're down to our last mistake in this letter. Advice, which is a spelling mistake, isn't it, Emily?
It is,
We have
absolutely.
advice. So this is the noun we need to use. Advice is with an S would be a verb.
That's right. And we pronounce it advise, like a Z sound, when it is the verb.
That's right.
So to advise, and you give advice. And advice is very similar to information. It's one that you expect to count, but it is actually uncountable. So again, some advice or pieces of advice. And like Nicole says, you could also change advice for suggestions as well. You could say, do you have any suggestions?
That's also, good thinking. That could also be a correct version. Right? Okay. So
yeah, I think these are all of the common errors in this text. Please let us know if you have any questions about any of the words or any of the correct answers that we have talked about.
All right. Okay.
So this is quite difficult to do online, so we might need to skip this activity. And
again, this could be only good for a face-to-face lesson.
Yeah, but one thing we could do instead is to use more of these false friends in sentences, because of course we can discuss these in the abstract, but it becomes more helpful when you can use them more often.
We can also look at some examples we have in the cards and use them as examples. So if there are any problems that come up using them, we could talk about it in the cards. Okay, so these are the ones that we already...
You might need to zoom in, Anika.
Sorry?
We might need to zoom in a little because it's not very clear. So we have talked about some of these already, and you can see others that you mentioned or that we mentioned during the lesson.
All right. So we can... we have a few minutes left before we end the webinar. So I was thinking of turning this into a quick game and giving definitions of some of these words while you guys guess which word we are talking about. Right?
Yeah, great idea, Anika.
So how about a word that I'm thinking of which refers to a place where you buy books? You buy books and not sit there and read books. So if anyone knows the answer, please feel free to share. So it's
Yeah.
definitely one of my favorite places to
Mine
explore.
too.
So Paula here says there is also box in Italian. That's a good one. Very good. Tutti, very good. Bookstore is the word I was
Yeah,
looking for. Or bookshop
that's right.
is the same thing. Well done,
Yeah, so
Nicole.
the difference between bookstore and bookshop is again an American or British thing. So store is more American and shop is more British, but you can use them in the same way.
Yeah, yeah. So we have other false friends. So probably we wouldn't need the words in front of us. So since you have to guess what the definition is, so let's try it without looking. Can you think of another word that one of them that we discussed today?
Yeah, so if I look before I cross the road, then what am I? What is an adjective to describe me?
That's a good one. All right. Also, if you use your time well, if you have an exam and you study, optimize your time.
Yeah, another good example for that word, definitely.
Okay. Well, it takes maybe we have already received comments, but it takes a little bit of time for it to arrive to us.
Yes,
Right. So, Paula
it
says,
is. As Paula says, educated. It's actually not educated. Remember, educated is just about the level of schooling that you had. This is more about being rational and thinking about things before you do them.
yes, let me just mention that to you guys. Educated refers to level of schooling, but we were talking about being more responsible about something. So, shall we give them the word?
I think so. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the word is sensible. So sensible, as Nicole has just said, also it is sensible. It is yes, careful is a good synonym for sensible. While we mention sensible, I just want to say the noun for sensible is sense. So unusually it's a very short noun there. And you can say someone has common sense if they do things that that are very rational, and they don't need lots of experience in the world to have good instincts. You have common sense.
Yeah, definitely. That makes it easier to remember. Like having sense is being sensible, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And I will just write down that word so you have the spelling for it. Yeah, I think we have time for maybe one more. Anika, if you would like
Right.
to think of another.
Sure. I can think of a word that refers to usually a big building, and it's an industrial building where things are produced.
A good one.
It could be either things or it could be electricity.
Yeah, it's often a specific product or related to a specific company.
Yeah. So we have too many of them in the world, I would say. We don't want them anymore. That's right, factory. Well done,
Yes, well
Salvi
done,
and
everyone.
Paula. Yeah. All right. I think that brings us to the end of the lesson, and not fine.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. The finish and not the fine. Yes, and thank you all for watching our webinar and interacting with us. It is always more interesting and not boring when people do take the time to write comments. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, I would also like to thank everybody for their participation and comments,
Yeah.
and also the questions.
Yes, we like questions.
Right.
So
It helps
thank
everybody.
you.
Right. All right.
So thank you all. Have a
Thank-
lovely afternoon, all of
Have a
you.
lovely afternoon. Bye.
Bye.